What's good, YouTube? DM Gaming here, guys. Hope everybody's having an awesome day, weekend, whatever's going on in your life, guys. Do me a solid before we get into the video. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell icon so you don't miss a single upload that we do on the channel. We're gearing up to start talking about college football 27 because, guys, now is the time that we need to start. If the stuff that you want in the game, this is the time to start talking about it before they start making the next version of the game. You don't want to wait till 5, even 6 months from release to start saying what you want in the game and then complaining about stuff not being in the game. This is the time to start talking about it. So in today's video, I want to talk about Heisman mode. Because there's some things that I've noticed from playing on stream and stuff like that. First and foremost, Heisman mode to me is much improved from last year. Last year, it felt like the game dumbed down your characters, your players, just for the sake of making Heisman mode difficult. Does that make sense? Madden was notorious for doing that as well. When I used to play on All Madden, back when I used to play Madden, it's like the game purposely made your players play worse for the sake of letting computer play better. And in 26, I've noticed that, and I love this. I'm gonna approach this from an offensive standpoint against Heisman level and a defensive standpoint against Heisman level. Okay, so offensively, I love to strategize. I love to keep the computer guessing. What you're seeing on the screen here is from an older live stream where I was playing with Colorado. And guys, they adjusted so freaking well to what I did. You have some schools that you'll play where they will adjust very well. Cincinnati was one of those teams. We actually ended up losing this game because the defense adjusted so well, and at the time, I didn't have answers for those adjustments. Fast forward to a later dynasty where I learned to adapt to certain things. I learned what works against some defensive alignments based off of the offensive alignment that I was in, and et cetera, et cetera. And I got better at the game. It made me even better because I had to strategize. 25 wasn't like that. 26, I really like that offensively. That when you're playing against good teams, they do adjust fast and very well to what you're doing. Now, the struggle with that offensively, or what people may run into issues with, is, guys, understand this. If you are a not so good team and you're playing against a pretty dang good team, don't expect your offensive line to hold up. Don't expect it. Some of the issues that I see where people are complaining about pass blocking and run blocking and blocking in general, I'm seeing that teams are playing with a team like they're playing with a bad team and they're playing against a Texas or a Ohio State. You know, guys, turn on real football and show me where Texas and Ohio State and Texas A&M, show me where these Power 4 schools don't dominate these group of 5 conference teams in the trenches. You know what I'm saying? It happens. Now, one thing that I like about Heisman is that because the computer adjusts so well, as long as you can keep the computer on their toes, you could beat a pretty dang good team with a not so good team. Perfect example is in my latest dynasty, and that's on stream. I was playing with Mississippi State. We ended up winning the national championship. Now, we lost 2 games. We lost to Oklahoma and we lost to Alabama. Very close game with both. 3 points to Oklahoma, 10 to Alabama. And then we played LSU and Auburn and upset Auburn, beat LSU. We go to the SEC championship game against Georgia, undefeated. And guys, when I tell you, like, I was constantly doing different things. Now, I did run, which I do in my variant shoot. I have 3 formations that are my base formations, if you will. And I say this to say, guys, understand what the formations in your playbook are trying to do. Okay. For example, I play with Mississippi State. I'm not as good up front as a Georgia or Alabama. So how do you make yourself better against those teams? For me, in the veer and shoot, I spread them out. The less that those guys are together, the better, because now you're creating those one-on-one matchups. You're putting guys in space, and it makes all the world a difference. I love the way that the defense on Heisman adjusts to what you do. It keeps you on your toes offensively, and it makes you be creative. You can't really spam the same play over and over and over. A good team is going to adjust. You're going to have to do something different. In college football 25, I used to be able to just sit back and line up in wide stack and throw fade routes all day. Assuming I had a receiver with like at least 96 speed and acceleration. I can't do that. Like, and the cool thing I like about it is deep balls in this game are hit or miss. If you even, I would say this, even if you have a great quarterback, like throwing the deep ball it's a shot, but it's so rewarding when you're able to complete it. And it's true to life. You don't see a bunch of teams just dropping back throwing a bunch of vertical routes. And when they do throw those deep balls and they're completed, I mean, everybody goes stupid. You know what I'm saying? And and the game replicates that. I like the challenge that the defense brings. I think for me, I love playing with the veer and shoot because I can spread the defense out and do a lot of different things out of one formation. Like, it depends on what you line up in. I'm going to make you wrong 95% of the time. Doesn't mean I don't turn the ball over and stuff like I have. I've, playing with Mississippi State, I had to adjust. I had a quarterback had like a 70 rating for his deep ball. He couldn't throw the deep ball to save his life. And so I had to adapt as a player on the game. Do I continue to try to run this veer and shoot offense like I'm used to running it with a lot of vertical attacks and things like that? Or do I adjust? And what did I do? I adjusted. What do you do in real life if you have a quarterback that can't throw the deep ball? You're going to go to more intermediate routes, your short passing game, your medium passing game, and things like that, Bob. And so what happened is it made me a better player on the game. And people witnessed that watching me play with Mississippi State. A beautiful thing that I like with this game is every playbook is completely different. Every team is different. I ended up going to Boise State, and I had to learn that team. Guys, that's real life football. If I'm a head coach and I go to a different team, I have to learn that team. If I'm a player and I go to a different team with a new playbook, I have to learn that new playbook. You know what I'm saying? And the game is the same way. Like, I am so comfortable with the veer and shoot. When I go to another playbook, I'm uncomfortable because I don't know the nuances of that playbook. Even though I understand what the scheme itself is trying to accomplish, and that helps you out a lot, understanding the formations and what the formations are trying to do to the defense and how to capitalize off of that. Guys, any new playbook you get, you're going to have to learn that. That's why I don't like when people ask me, why don't you try a different playbook? What do you mean, why don't I try a different playbook? Do you not know how coaching is in real life? Offensive coordinators don't go flip-flopping playbooks all the damn time. What they do is they take their playbook and they adjust it to the personnel that they have. And that's something that I'm very good at. I've gotten good at because of this game and the way the defense adjusts. Now, speaking of defense, as you can see, this touchdown right here can be pretty nerve-wracking. My biggest complaint with playing defense on Heisman is that the offensive players break everything. They break all kinds of tackles. You get quarterbacks that break tackles. Like my stream that I did last, if you can go check it out, against Boise State, or just look right here. Now, that first one was my fault. That one right there, just broke an arm tackle. This right here, got him wrapped up, and he just spins out of it. It's one thing if the player is elite and this happens. It's another thing when not so good players do this. I will say 26 compared to 25, you don't see the non-elite players doing these types of things. You do see the good players doing it. And in the game, one thing that I've noticed is 79, 75 is kind of average for everybody. You don't see a whole bunch of 80 overall type teams and things like that. You know, or when you get into it, it does make a difference. Defensively, my biggest problem is that I don't mind computer being able to break tackles and trigger these tackle battles every single tackle almost. It feels like, even though it's not every single tackle. My issue is that they don't let your players do the same thing. My running backs that I normally have are 85 plus, and they don't get into tackle battles like that, and they don't break tackles like that. Because I know you're gonna say, well, maybe they're not a bruiser. Even my elusive running backs, they don't break tackles like that. They don't stiff arm, juke, spin, and I utilize all of that. But the computer is able to break more tackles, even with the quarterbacks, and I feel like they do this to they allow computer to do that to make it more of a challenge. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna make a tackle, you better square up, and even then, you might miss it. You better have more guys flying to the football. If it's a one-on-one situation with computer, eight times out of 10, computer's gonna win that one-on-one matchup. You know what I'm saying? And that's my issue with Heisman defensively. I love that the offense, they will pick you apart if you are not running the right defense. And even if you're running the right defense, you better have some pressure on the quarterback. Guys, the trenches in this game is a difference maker. Your success in this game is, I would say, 85% tied to who you have on the defensive line and the offensive line. Understanding what personnel to put out on the field based off of what they're running is extremely important, because all defenses aren't created the same. The 4-3 is not the same as the 3-4. Okay. Both of them, you have, secondary guys. Nickel is not even different. You have different personnel on the field. Okay. Your dime package is going to be your package that's going to give you that 3 down line set, but it's going to fill your defense with secondary guys and like maybe 2 linebackers. Whereas your 4-3, it's more lineman and linebacker centric. I always told y'all before this game came out, I told you in 25, you really gonna need to know this, not only the scheme that you're running, but what personnel you need to be efficient in that scheme. I was running 3-3-5 tight. Really, if you're going to run 3-3-5 tight, the objective is to force the offense to the outside to your more athletic corners and safeties and linebackers. And so in order to do that, you do need a stout, bulky, strong defensive line. And I really didn't focus on that. I focused more on speedy edge rushers. Now, I have since changed defenses because of that. It's like, okay, I don't need speedy edge rushers in a 3-3-5 tight. I need guys that can knock some people over in that 3-3-5 tight. Now, I can just run the regular 3-3-5 where it does puts those defensive ends on. Most of the time, it's 5 techniques, outside shades of the tight end or the tackle. But in the 3-3-5 tight, they're most of the times head up, because the goal is to take away the underneath, to take away the inside run game, in which a lot of teams wouldn't run inside on me, unless I'm running a stunt and I got the defensive tackle stunting outside, twisting, and it leaves the middle void. But that's been my biggest complaint. But I'm gonna tell you something interesting, guys. The camera angles make it look crazy sometimes. Like, I see stuff and I'm like, how the heck did that happen? And I get upset. But then I go and look at instant replay and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can't tell you how many times I've done that on the live stream. Perfect example was I was playing with Boise State. We were playing against Connecticut, UConn. And they threw a deep pass. I want to say it was maybe the end of the half. And their guy jumped up. I had 3 defenders around the ball. All 3 of them jumped up. This white boy, y'all, came down with a one-handed catch against 3 defenders. I was like, ain't no way in hell. But when you go back and look at it, the ball never was around the defenders. Which leads me to one of my biggest complaints defensively in this game. And that's something, guys, that they are working to fix. Is that when you are in position for an interception and I'm pressing the button for my defensive back to jump to try to get the pick, they don't jump. That grinds my gears and it needs to be fixed. If I'm pushing a button, I can understand if he's in motion and he's running. You can't really jump when you're running. It depends if I'm out of phase, because that's one thing people don't realize. Even myself, and the camera angle, same situation, same game. I'm looking like, dang, why my guy ain't jumping? Why he didn't try to break that up? Because to me, it looked like he was in phase with the wide receiver. But when I looked at it as a replay, he was out of phase. So it didn't make sense for him to jump. You know what I'm saying? But to me, when you are in phase, you strafe where you turn and face the ball and you push the jump button, your player should jump. And I find too often that they don't do that. So to me, Heisman on offense, it's fun, it's challenging. Defense is extremely challenging, you know? And I think the reason why I struggle so much defensively on Heisman is more because I spent most of my time on 25 playing offense. And even though I understand defensive concepts very well, applying that to the game is something that you got to learn to do. How do certain things work in the game? You know, because even defensively in the game, guys, you're at a disadvantage because let's be honest, there's so many checks and stuff that you could do that the offense isn't going to give you time to do all that, especially if they're going up tempo. I've memorized my stunts and twists. I've memorized. I got the buttons down to really adjust my defense pretty fast. And there's still some things that I need to do secondary wise, but you know, knowing where everything at is extremely important because the offense isn't going to wait on you. You know what I'm saying? But if you can get those things down, you'll put yourself in a better position. Now, saying all of this, you know, Heisman level, I ain't gonna say it's been a struggle per se. Like I've lost some games, don't get me wrong. I've won more than I've lost though. And even in playing with Boise right now, I'm undefeated. You know what I'm saying? But it's those games where it's like, okay, our overall is better than the team that we're playing. You know that you should dog stomp this team. And then you get out and they compete with your butt. You know what I'm saying? And then you go and play another team with similar ratings and you just dog walk them. You know, guys, this game is heavily structured on scheme. This is why a team that's not as good as you can compete with you because their scheme is better than yours. They're adjusting better than you. They're putting their players in position to make plays better than you are. And so that, like, if you want to beat like an Alabama or a Kennesaw State, it's possible. It's possible. I'm going to tell you, athlete for athlete, it's going to be hella tough. Don't expect a lot of time in the pocket. But guys, understand that. If I'm playing a team that's better than me in the trenches, I'm not going to run a bunch of pass plays that's going to be a 5-step drop, you know, a play that has to develop. I am going to run quick hitting plays. I want that ball in my quarterback's hand and out as fast as possible. And then using plays to counteract that aggressiveness. Because be real, if you're Alabama playing against a Kennesaw State, you're going to send the dogs. And you can do that with just a 4-man front and leave everybody else in coverage because that 4-man front is better than that 5-man front on offense. But understand that teams like that are going to be a little bit more aggressive. Use their speed against them. Run RPOs to freeze them up. Run play actions that quick hit behind it. Be ready to hit that R2 button to cancel out the animation, though. And run screenplays. You know, it was a guy in the chat that was like, DM, why you running? Why you always throwing short? Why you keep throwing short? Blah, 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 blah. And I told him, I said, I'm setting up the defense. I said, I love running RPOs. I will throw it short all day long. And what it's going to do, it's going to make the secondary adjust and they're going to start playing tighter. And that's when you hit them over the top for a big play. Sure enough, the next series, bam. Deep pass, wide open, caught, touchdown. In which anybody can attest playing this game. It's not very often that you get guys wide open running down the field in this game if you're playing on Heisman. So, you know, overall, I like Heisman better than I did in 25. But golly, defensively, guys, I'll be pulling my hair out. And that's because, like I said, they don't allow my players on Heisman to make the same types of plays, breaking tackles and stiff arming and all of that they allow computer to make. That's my biggest gripe with Heisman mode. Okay, you're making their players better for the sake of making the game harder in a sense. And I know that kind of sounds cliche because it's like, yeah, of course they're going to make them better. But My thing is, my players, like if I go play on All American level, or varsity. I hadn't played varsity or freshman, but if I play on a lower level, my players will be able to do those things. They'll be able to do the same things that Heisman players can do on Heisman. So why is it that when I move my game to Heisman, my players can no longer do those things? They can no longer break those types tackles and stuff like that, you know? And it's amazing too, because I sit there and I complain about it, but I could easily go into my sliders, and I did. I did. I went into my sliders and I adjusted it. You know, okay, my guys have normally broken these types of tackles and they're not breaking these tackles. You know, so go adjust the tackling of the defense. Now, understand this. You don't want to it's like I've been playing on default all this time. If I adjust the slider, I go by 5 at a time. You know what I'm saying? And so I adjusted it down to 5. They're tackling down to not to 5, but from 50 to 45. And it's a very balanced experience. I still get the same challenge that I get with Heisman, with the defense and the offense adjusting to what I do and things like that. Players taking better pursuit angles. Players are playing smarter and being smarter. But one of my biggest issues was the fact that computer can sit there and break all of those tackles, and my players couldn't break those same tackles that they could originally have done on other difficulties. So adjusting the tackling of the computer, now we're on an even playing field. I didn't make it to where they can't break those tackles. Really, you can't, because ball carrier moves isn't a thing that's in the game. But ball carrier sliders aren't in the game. But in doing what I've done, now, you know, it's like, okay, the playing field is even. Now it comes down to who can adjust better than the other, as opposed to the game, because you're playing on Heisman, making their players better than yours when you go look at the ratings and they're not. You know what I'm saying? I also adjusted my speed threshold finally. I was playing on 50. In 25, I played on 60 because it prevented a bunch of like those warp tackle animations. But I haven't noticed that in 25. I moved my speed threshold down to 17, and it's been amazing. Moving it down to 17, the fast players are fast. There's no warping animations and stuff like that. And it's made my team play completely different because, guys, I got some speed right now in my dynasty. I got 3 receivers running 95 plus, 94 plus. I got a quarterback with 90 speed, 92 acceleration. Like, I got some guys that can fly. Running backs running 92, 94 acceleration. And the game just didn't reflect that speed. For those of y'all who are saying that the game plays slower, try adjusting your speed threshold. Part of the reason the game plays slower is that it feels slower because the defense fits gaps better and they make better pursuits. So it makes you feel slower on offense. The whole arcadey feel, guys, they've done a great job in this game of adjusting these players to where if they are good at change direction, if their change direction is high enough, they can cut on a dime. But players that don't, they can't. In 25, it seemed like everybody can kind of cut on a dime. Everybody can juke. Everybody can spin. If you can't juke or spin, your juke and spin is going to be really slow in this game. You know what I'm saying? So I like that. Heisman level is fun. You will hear me on stream cussing and getting angry and all this and that. No, that's crazy, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go look at instant replay and be like, wait, no, yeah, dang, that's a play, man. But it's the competitive guy in me. I'm a coach. I'm an ex-player. I hate being scored on defensively. I don't give a dang how easy the game is, how tough. I don't care. So I'm going to get upset regardless. But at the end of the day, I love the challenge. I love that it's making me a better player on the field. I love that it's making me adjust and dig deeper into a playbook that I love with the veer and shoot. And it's a fun experience. It's a fun, nerve-wracking, it's a love-hate type of experience. Ones where we sit there and get upset and, oh man, blah, 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 blah. But we can't wait to get to the next game to make up for it, or get to the next play so that we can make up for it, or learn different techniques. One thing that I like with this game is playmakers matter, dog. Playmakers matter. You can tell a huge difference in having an average quarterback and having a good quarterback. The quarterback that I had in Mississippi State was average. His overall was 80. He was average, and he played very average. Then I went to Boise and got he's a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, 94 overall, guys, because of some training stuff I did too. But he was 91 overall, and I upgraded some stuff on him in the offseason and got him to 94 overall as a red shirt sophomore, guys. So understanding that, like, you could tell a difference from good backs and bad backs. You could tell a difference from good quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks. Wear and tear hasn't been an issue for me because with my running backs, one thing that I'll do is I go into my settings and I put on that I keep my running backs fresh. I'm able to do that. I was able to do it when I played with Mississippi State because I had three running backs that were 85 and above. And in Boise State, I got three running backs that are about 81, 82, 84, and then my starter's like an 88 overall. So if you got a stable of backs and you want to give people playing time, go to the settings and put the keep your running backs fresh. What that is going to do, it is going to make sure that your running backs don't get beat up by wear and tear. And guys, that's what real teams do. You look at the Texas Longhorns play. They rotate three backs, sometimes four. You look at all these prominent teams for the most part. They're gonna have 2 to 3 backs that they utilize as opposed to just one back that just gets all the carries. You know what I'm saying? So all in all, there are some things that definitely need to be fixed with the game logic. Like I said, being facing an interception and you pushing the jump button and your guy doesn't jump, like stuff like that is nerve wracking, especially when it gives up a big play to the defense, or to the offense. I mean, and then offensively, when I'm on or defensively when I'm playing on defense, just souping up the computer's players for the sake of making the game harder. Like, let the ratings be what they are and let them matter. But yeah, hey, it's on Heisman, so yeah, let those teams adapt way quicker. I don't mind them taking better pursuit angles and playing the game smarter. You know what I'm saying? Utilizing blitzes and disguising coverages. And there's a lot of things that they could do in the game that can make it a more challenging, as opposed to just making the computer players like super good at everything, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And I say that with a grain of salt because there are teams that are terrible on Heisman, and you like, I can't remember who that was we played in my dynasty, and we took them. It was like 60 something to 12. Like, we beat the brakes off of them. It wasn't nothing we couldn't do. But I also just played offense that game. I didn't play defense. And so when I play defense, it doesn't work the same way. So I don't know. Maybe that's a human error. Maybe that's something that, hey, I personally have to get better at defense like I'm good on offense in the game and just see what happens. You know what I'm saying? But I know when I play defense, that computer, they break all kind of tackles. And I'm not going for hit sticks all the time. It's just even a wrapping up a secure tackle with X, and it triggers that battle. And you know what I'm saying? But all in all, overall, great experience. Overall, I love Heisman so much better than I did in 25. And I can't wait to see how they improve on it with these patches and title updates that's coming and things like that. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section down below. What is your experience on the game level that you're playing on? And if you're not playing on Heisman, what is your reason why that you're not? And if you are, what's the reason? What brings you to the challenge? That's all I got, y'all. Till next time, thanks for watching. Peace.